Hello and welcome, friends. Welcome you all to the class of
Good
public.
evening.
Good evening, Anurag. Good evening, Mansi. Good
Good evening,
evening,
sir.
good evening, Priya, Sahil, and Shweta, Pandey, Vinit,
Good
Unnati.
evening,
Good
sir.
evening, Unnati. Good evening. We start in just 2 minutes. Please bear with me. Oh, I'm sorry, my music list is still on. Right, just to be clear, I hope my voice is audible and my presentation is visible to you all. Can somebody please verify the same?
Yes, sir.
So, good evening to all once again. It's a beautiful evening here in Pune with a lot of rain, and I hope that everybody, all of you, are safe at your home. Please don't go out again. Um, I now officially welcome you to the class of Public International Law. Yesterday, we have seen about the concept of the state. I've told you how state is important as the only subject of international law, and we have seen several definitions. Then we have also seen Article 1 of the Montevideo Convention relating to the rights and duties of the state in 1932, wherein they have not exactly defined what you mean by state, but rather they have prescribed four qualifications in order to call an entity a state. So these four elements were: number one was permanent population, second was a defined territory, third one was the government, and the last not the least was the capacity of the state to enter into relationship with all other members of the international community. Apart from that, the basic concepts of the state, we have also seen what are the classifications of the state. Mainly, you can divide the state into three categories. One is fully sovereign, then second one was not fully sovereign states. Now, to these categories, we cannot call them a state, in fact. And the third one was non-typical state, including the Vatican City and all. So we have seen that sovereign states are only eligible under international law to refer to as a state under international law. Okay, and those who are not fully sovereign states, for example, there were several categories again, like protectorate state, vassal states, and so on and so forth. These states always remain under the authority of some other state, and that's why they do not enjoy the complete sovereignty under international law. Now, keeping this subject forward, you have yet another topic in your syllabus. It's called state territory. Since it is quite connected with the concept of state, I would like to extend the topic of the state and mix it up with the state territory. And remember, state territory is another yet another topic you have, which is equally important to understand. So we will see what do you exactly mean by state territory and what is included in the state territory exactly, and then we'll examine one by one the various elements of the state territory, and we'll go on with the understanding of several case laws as well, or the cases or the examples that may come across. So without much ado, I think we should straight away begin with the introduction of the topic. This is, uh, you see, territory over which a state has an exclusive control and jurisdiction is referred to state territory, which means if a state has complete control over its territory, including its jurisdiction and exclusive control over the population and entire its territory, then that area and those people included are will be included in the term state territory, which means whatever is located, whatever is situated within in that particular territory becomes the part and parcel and ownership of the particular state. So Oppenheim, again and again in every topic, almost we are going to meet this great jurist Oppenheim because his contribution to international law recently has done wonders. And as a result, we'll have to see how he see international law from his point of view. So Oppenheim defines state territory as that defined portion of the globe which is subjected to the sovereignty of a state, right? Which means it is that defined portion. Again, if you remember, in the definition, in the qualification of the state, we have seen that there must be a territory in order to call an entity a state. So that territory must not just be a normal territory, but sorry to me, but it should be a defined territory. So Oppenheim says the same thing. He says that state territory is nothing but that defined portion of the globe which is subjected to the sovereignty of the state. Again, sovereignty, supremacy, independence of the state becomes will come again and again in different chapters. So sovereignty means supremacy, supremacy means independence, and independence includes non-interference from other states into the internal administration of that particular state. So it is the defined portion of the globe which is subjected to the sovereignty of a state. So, as a result, and but obvious, territory of the state is nothing but the property of that particular state. Okay, so territorial sovereignty further must not be exercised in such a manner which may be detrimental to other states. But always the exercise of territorial sovereignty must be in such a way in compliance with good in compliance with the international obligation in good faith and in consonance in accordance with the general international law, right? And as a result, this is what exactly has been held in ICJ in its very first case called Curfew Channel case. It stated that it is every state's obligation not to allow knowingly its territory to be used for acts contrary to the rights of the other state. Which means, suppose tomorrow or regularly Pakistan uses its territory to give or to provide terrorist trainings. So this is an example which is where a country is using the property, its territory, which is detrimental to the other states like India and its neighboring states. Okay, so though the sovereignty has been given, but this sovereignty is limited, this power is limited when it comes to territory of that particular state, right? So you cannot use the territory in such a way such as to cause harm to the other state. This is very general and fundamental principle. We will see now what a state territory is comprising of. The state territory usually comprises of number one, land territory, national waters, territorial waters, sometimes or formally called as territorial waters, then airspace over the territory, and not only the airspace over the territory of the land allotted to it, but also it includes the subsoil under the earth. Okay, so the state territory in simple terms, it's consisting of these five elements. Number one is land territory, second is national waters, then the territorial sea, which is also known as territorial waters, airspace over the territory, then subsoil under the earth, right? So there is very famous Karna Arjun dialogue, right? मेरे कर्ण अर्जुन आएंगे आकाश से आएंगे जमीन से आएंगे पाताल से आएंगे. So the state territory includes exactly all these five elements, right? Then now we'll see what do you mean by land territory, national waters, what is included in territorial sea, airspace, and the subsoil under the earth. Okay, we'll see to it one by one, and we'll also see how if you do not manage this very properly, then how problems are bound to arise under the domain of international law, and how states will find. So we'll see the land territory first. Okay, state territory is consisting of the lands within its boundaries. A boundary is therefore a line on the surface to identify a particular territory of one state, right? So land territory is always being marked by a boundary, remember. And that's why when Article 1 of the Montevideo stated one of the condition as defined territory, it means defined territory means it should be defined, it should be clearly demarcated by a clear boundary. And now boundaries may be of two kinds. One is natural boundary, such as rivers, a range or mountain or deserts or forest. And second one is artificial. When it comes to natural boundaries, you must have seen in Bollywood Hindi movies that Nadiya ke paar uska desh, Nadiya ke is par hamara desh, right? So natural boundaries are often being marked by rivers, mountains, deserts, even forests. And artificial boundaries usually are being marked and constructed, which divides the area, and mainly fences, trenches, etc. are these examples. Now, when it comes to land territory, these are often remain a fertile source of dispute among the states, and thus they should be well defined. If you don't define the boundaries clearly, then disputes are bound to arise. For example, India and China are involved in the boundary disputes since a very long time. While in the western sector, no definite boundary line exists at all. In the eastern sector, McMahon line it's been settled. But however, the dispute was settled by the Shimla Accord, Shimla Convention, in the year 1913, but which is not again applicable. And that's why we have to fight several confrontations and wars between, you see, China and India. Recently, if you remember, then the serious confrontation, military confrontations were going on in the areas of Leh and Ladakh because China wanted to dominate. And fortunately, successful negotiation happened in between the military officers, in between the diplomats of both the countries. And for now, the dispute has been temporarily settled. The China has backed up its army way back to the pavilion, and India has managed to win the situation for now. Okay, so this was the McMahon dispute related to the boundary. We have second dispute which is going on in between India and Pakistan very often, and this dispute is pertaining to the Siachen Glacier. If you have heard, we even have some military confrontation with Pakistani army over the Siachen Glacier, and we are in conflict since 1983 over a Siachen Glacier, and there was no boundary line exist in the area. There cannot be. There are now. Let me tell you one thing. There are some. There can be some geographical areas where can where it will be impossible to draw a particular line, to draw a particular boundary line. So Siachen is an Asia covered by glaciers all the time. So you cannot have a concrete boundary line to be there in the Glacier. And as a result, in 1949, Karachi Agreement was concluded between these two states, where a fire line was set with the assistance of the UN observers. United Nations intervened in this particular case. The line which has been pointed designated as NJ9842, and the glaciated area of it was not demarcated. Finally, the result of all this indemarcation was the dispute between the India and Pakistan, as usual, you can imagine. And this is the exactly Siachen Glacier for you. If you have a closer look at the Siachen, this is just example of one form, one part of the Siachen, right? You can see that the entire area is being covered by glaciers, ice, and even if you try to make a line, then that line also will be covered in return by the ice again. So it's almost impossible to you see demarcate this particular area. Now, however, as and when uh, boundary disputes are in existence, then boundaries may be demarcated either by the states concerned themselves by way of negotiation, or they can do so with the help of the international agencies. So usually there is a demarcation commission, which has been there established by with the help of the United Nations, and the demarcation of boundary in 1993 between Iraq and Kuwait boundary was set up by Boundary Demarcation Commission, which was set up by the UN Security Council. Okay, this is just example as to how boundaries this can be a matter of contention between the states. Then, secondly, which is included in the state territory, includes national waters. National waters can be divided into these following parts, and these are also called sometimes as internal waters. They include rivers, canals, ports, and harbors, Gulf areas, and the bays. Okay, so we'll see what are these rivers and canals and how important these rivers and canals sometimes when it comes to the protection of the territory of a particular state. Okay, then rivers may be divided into four categories. Number one, national rivers. Second one is boundary rivers. Third one is unilateral, and then last one is the international rivers. We'll see one by one. What do you mean by these all? First is national rivers. It means those rivers which flow wholly from its source to its mouth within the boundary of one and the same state. So that becomes the national river of that particular state. That becomes the property of that particular state, and it becomes the responsibility of the other members not to interfere when it comes to the flow of the waters when it comes to national rivers. Okay, so national rivers are those rivers which take birth and end in the same state only. Then we have second one is boundary rivers. The rivers by virtue of which new boundaries or boundaries between the states could be created or have been created are known as by the name of boundary rivers. There are several states which have the boundary rivers like that. Then the third category we have is plurilateral or multilateral rivers, which means those rivers which run successfully to through two or more states. So there can be, for example, Jhenab and Jhelum has been flows simultaneously in India and Pakistan also. So there can be two or more or three states which can be party to the flowing river. Okay, these kind of rivers are known by the name of plurilateral or multilateral rivers. In other words, then we have the international rivers, which means these are those plurinational rivers which are navigable from the open sea and which, though belong to this territory of different state concerned, are nevertheless named international rivers. It means it doesn't matter that it flows into or more states. However, what matters under international law is open navigation should be allowed in such international rivers. Okay, right? And usually this has been decided by the treaties which can be concluded between two or more states or the group of states or multilaterally by all the states. Okay. Then we have mm, regarding international rivers, you see, there is a rule that a state cannot at any cost alter the natural flow of the river, which may be disadvantageous to the other riparian states. Other riparian state means those states where the river flows downstreamingly. Okay, so like we have seen in the land territory, the territory cannot be used in such a way as to harm or as to cause harm or it should be detrimental to the other states. Similar way, river flow cannot be altered by any of the state so as to cause disadvantage to the other riparian states, right? And normally, if you do so, problem arises. Normal problem arises as to the use and utilization of the water. And if at any time such disputes or conflict arises, then usually the matters are being solved by way of concluding a particular treaty relating to the use and use of the resources and allocation of the water. When it comes to India, there are two issues mainly related. One is related to India and Pakistan. One is related to India and Bangladesh. So we have an Indus Water agreement with Pakistan and the Farakka issue with the Bangladesh, which we will see in the next slide. Okay, so this is exactly the Indus water look like. This is the water of the Indus, and this is exactly the matter that is there in between India and Pakistan. Okay, so this is known as the Indus Waters Agreement, wherein a treaty was concluded between India and Pakistan and the IBRD. It's a bank on September 19, 1960 to regulate and to monitor the use of waters of Indus, Chenab, and Jhelum rivers. Article 3 of the treaty exclusively provided that waters of this river shall be allocated to Pakistan, the lower riparian state. However, India could use the waters for certain purposes, including the generation of hydroelectric projects. So, on the basis of Article 3 of the treaty, which has been concluded in between India, Pakistan, and IBRD in the year 1960, India started the construction of Salal hydroelectric project, which was started on the river of Chenab. On this, as expected and at obvious, very obvious, Pakistan made objections and it raised eyebrows on the actions of India. However, to resolve this dispute, an agreement in 1978 was concluded between India and Pakistan, and the object of which is to neutralize the ill effects of waters in Pakistan from the project. So this is how in international law, the disputes and the light disputes like this, water sharing and water allocation are being solved always almost by arriving at a conclusion and arriving at a particular dispute. So this is exactly the map look like of the Chenab. You can see Chenab and you can see exactly the red marked Salal Dam, which India tried to construct. Pakistan objected on the same, and finally there was a dispute which was being resolved by coming to an agreement under international law. Okay, then we also have the Farakka issue. This is exactly the Farakka Dam in between India and Bangladesh. We will also see what exactly happened in Farakka Barrage. Now, this was Farakka Barrage was built in 1924 on the river of Ganges to save the port of Calcutta and to carry out the activities smoothly. But Bangladesh made an objection on the ground that there should be uninterrupted flow of waters around the year, and the construction of Farakka barrage would make a hindrance, would make an obstacle for Ganges to reach to the Bangladesh. And as a result, now remember, this project was being built in 1974. Bangladesh got independence in 1971, and again in the year, merely after 5 years, 1976, Bangladesh brought the matter before the United Nations General Assembly, which referred in turn the issue to the Special Political Committee. However, Bangladesh was, you see, Bangladesh was reminded of the activities it is doing, and the issue was withdrawn by the Bangladesh, announcing that India and Bangladesh will manage the issue, discuss the issue bilaterally, and to mark an end to the particular issue, finally an agreement was concluded between these two states for sharing of the Ganges water. Okay, for a period of 5 years. So this is again one of the another example as to what happens if you do not divide or if you do not demarcate clearly between the land territory as well as the rivers are concerned. Okay. Any questions so far on this? Am I going too fast or am I going too slow? I don't understand because it seems only I am the speaker. Any questions so far? Anybody? You can please unmute and ask. No questions? Are you all there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then let us see the third element of what has been included. This is again the image of the holy Ganges as to how it starts from right from the Himalayas and go to the lower plains of the Bangladesh. And here exactly, if you see in at the boundary, Farakka barrage was being constructed by India. Okay, then this is the real image which was in conflict, and at the time when this Farakka barrage was being made, that time only uh, Bangladesh made an objection in the United Nations General Assembly. And then we come to the third issue. These are the canals which are being constructed by the state. They form the very part and parcel of the territories of the state. For example, Korean Canal, you must have heard, although it is very kept open to vessels generally, but it is exclusively being controlled by the Greece. Uh, especially you see when the canals are constructed to affect the international waterway system or an international drainage area, they became important for the other states also. And if such canals, which are the part and parcels of the state and it included in the state territory concept, they often present problems before the international community to the other state. So, two important canals and their cases we have here. One is Suez Canal, and the second one is King Canal. We'll see what exactly and how important these canals are from the international trade point of view and from the international strategic military strategic point of view. So this is the image of Suez Canal for you exclusively brought to you by me. So the Suez Canal was recently also in the news. You must have seen this trend going on in Twitter because there was a ship which is blocked um, in the Suez Canal and it was very difficult to remove. As a result, there was a heavy traffic jam in the entire waterway of the Suez Canal. So we'll see it has a very particular interesting history as well, which we will see right now. So the Suez Canal connects the Red Sea with the Mediterranean. It lies, however, to the exclusive ownership of the Egyptian territory. It was opened in the year 1869 and it was owned by a French company, but later it came under the control of the Britishers. Most importantly, the Convention of the Constantinople was signed in 1888 by all major European powers, and by virtue of which it was declared a neutral canal, which guaranteed full passage to all, even in the time of war as well as in the peace. So, to the great defender of this convention became Great Britain, which promised the neutrality of the canal and free passage to all, irrespective of any kind of difference or opinion or discrimination. Right. So, in the year 1954, a treaty was concluded in Cairo between Great Britain and Egypt, wherein it was agreed that British government will give all the control of the canal to the Egyptian government. Of the shortly, immediately after 2 hours, the president of the Egypt, famous Nasir, announced the nationalization of the canal and took complete, it actually literally complete control of that particular canal, which was in violation of the Convention of Constantinople, which was signed in the year 1888. So many states, but obvious, declared and protested, declared it as an illegal nationalization by uh, Egypt, and even Britain and France took the issue to the UN Security Council, wherein it adopted a resolution that sovereignty of the Egypt or the canals shall be respected, and canals shall have to be free and open to all the states without any kind of discrimination. So. Unprecedentedly, in October 1956, the UN forces, which is comprising of British, France, and Israel, they created the UN emergency force and attacked and started invading the Egypt. Immediately on April 24, 1957, right almost immediately, Egypt announced that the provisions of the Constantinople Convention will be respected and the use of canals shall be free for all without any kind of discrimination. So this was the particular issue when it comes to canal. So canals in international law are also very much important from the strategic point of view. So this is what exactly Suez Canal looks like, and the president of Egypt announced the nationalization of the canal and took complete control of the same. Then we have the second issue, which pertains again and again, which is very interesting. This is how exactly the Kiel Canal looks like. This is the real image of the Kiel Canal, and we will see what exactly is the issue. The Kiel Canal usually connects the Baltic with the North Sea, and it was totally been constructed by Germany, and wholly it belongs to the German territory. It is located in the Germany. Before First World War, it was controlled by Germany but was opened for navigation. But after the war position was completely changed. And if you remember, after the World War One, there was immediately the Treaty of Versailles was being concluded in the year 1919, and which expressly advocated that Article 380 of the treaty lays down clearly that the canals and its approaches shall be maintained free and open to the vessels of commerce and of wars of all nations at peace with Germany on the terms of entire equality. However, in the year 1923, a case came up before the PCIJ, because remember, before World War II, there was Permanent Court of International Justice. It was not International Court of Justice. So the case came up before PCIJ, and wherein a British vessel SS Wimbledon was refused access with the canal by the Germans on the ground that it was carrying military goods to Poland, which was at that particular time when it was seized, was war with Russia. So the court held that it was the duty of the Germans to free the vessel and allow the free passage of the same. So the court, the World Court, ICJ, PCIJ, time and again has upheld the value of the right of free passage in the international waters, including the canals like Kiel Canal. Okay, so this was the second example as to how canals are sometimes very much important for us. Then, in brief, very brief, we'll see what we mean by territorial sea, because you have the entire law of the sea unit, which we'll cover in the next session. Okay, so territorial sea, it means the coastal state over the ocean has an authority as per Article 2 and as per the breadth. So the breadth of the particular sea usually has the area of 12 nautical miles, right? Which means, suppose India is adjacent to the ocean, Indian authorities will have its own territorial sea only up to the miles of 12 nautical miles, which means within these 12 nautical miles of the ocean, Indian authorities can do whatever they want. They can use the waters, they can exploit the waters, they can exploit the resources of the waters the way they want. Then also states and transit passages. This is also the see included in this. We will all see this when we'll discuss the law of the sea matter, right? Then land territory, states can also be included in the domain of the land territory. What is state? Now you can see the area in between these two, what should I say, mountains like looking like area. So the area which is in the middle, it's known by the name of state. So sorry, excuse me. So some of the times the existence of these states in between the territory of these two states can also be the matter of contention, the matter of issue before the two states. So we'll see exactly what these states are. You see, this diagram is clear, quite clear when it comes to the state. So the middle area, this particular area is known as the state under international law. And if these states comes or become the property of one particular state, which means it is the state territory of a particular state, then it is the duty of this particular state to allow the free passage of all the ships, vessels of war kind, or you see, or merchandise kind, all should be given free access and open access without any kind of discrimination being made. So this is known by the name of the states, which may come to your examination for short marks. And all states which are not 6 miles wider are regarded as a part of the coastal state. Coastal state means those states which are adjacent to the ocean, right? And it includes the 12 nautical miles area. It means those states which divides the land of one and the same state belong to that particular state. Those states which have the breadth of more than 6 miles, these great states may be termed as the international states. And this is also when you call something like international waters, international states, then it becomes the right of other states to have to exercise their right of innocent passage. Right. This is another example. This is the Malacca state. So this is again more than 6 miles wider, and as a result, this is open for international navigation and open for the vessels as well as the other ships. Then we have archipelagic sea lane passage, which is, for example, Indonesia's sea lanes. You see, here also you can see whatever the states are, they are clearly free for the international navigation and the passage. Then again, as I said, whether these states also form the part of the coastal state is again a matter of controversy. Right of innocent passage shall be prevail of all the other states in such states. So in Curfew Channel case, it was held by the ICJ that the right of innocent passage can be exercised even without the prior authorization of the coastal state, right? So you need not even take the permission of the coastal state. So this is the technical definition which is being provided by the UNCLOS, that is United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea 1982, and Article 19 of the same defines it as the regime of passage to states which is used for navigation established in this part shall not in other respects shall affect the legal status of water forming such state and exercised by the state bordering the states of their sovereignty jurisdiction over such waters and their airspace, bed, and the subsoil. It means the state, it includes the area of the airspace, the bed, and even of the subsoil. So from this point of view, it becomes quite very interesting and important. Then we have this is called as bays under international law. These are also the part of the state territory, and usually it is an area surrounded uh, or otherwise demarcated by land at three level or at three circles. Usually, bays are generally having calmer waters due to the surrounding land and blocking some of the ways, often reducing wind. So, area has been landlocked here in literal sense and by three ways, and there remains the water. These are very much important from the point of view of international trade and other purposes, right? So um, again, the UNCLOS 1982 defines bay as a marked indentation whose penetration is in such a proportion to the width of its mouth so as to contain landlocked water. So the waves is generally landlocked, okay, and constitute more than a mere curvature of the coast, right? So these are all the technical definitions which have been given by the UNCLOS convention, which you can definitely go into the detail. So again, as I said, bays were significant in the history of human settlement because they could provide a safe place for fishing, harboring, and you see from traveling, from protection from the violent storms, storms, and so on and so forth. And you see, later they were important in the development of sea trade as safe anchorage, right? They provide encouraged their selection of ports as well. So this you can see Bay of Bengal. It has a rich heritage of the international trade, big reputation in the international sea market and sea trade activities. Okay. Uh, then we go to the next one. These are the three bays. You see, areas is been surrounded by three bays. Water is generally calmer. Then the territorial sea. Territorial sea, we will see this when we'll discuss the law of the sea matter. I don't think any need to discuss it here right away. However, if yeah, I think it all let us let's talk about mm, the law of the sea. Right? Yes. So, friends, we have successfully completed the topic of the state in general, as well as the topic which is adjacent on which you have it in altogether another unit. It is called state territory and what exactly it must include. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask and I will feel free to answer. Okay, and maybe we can decide one day wherein I can see you guys because I don't know your names. I don't know how you look. So maybe we can have one on-camera meeting. Maybe. What do you say? Or before that, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Any questions so far? No. Anyone can just unmute yourself and so on. Hopefully, from next week, your madam will be able to join, and you won't be bothered by my lectures again. But I can just be hopeful. All right. So if you don't have any questions, it's time for me to end the class, and we'll meet again if your madam won't come on Monday by 11:30 a.m. Okay?
Sir,
Thank
Monday
you
is
Sir,
the
so much.
holiday.
we've been
Monday is the holiday.
Monday is what?
57th anniversary of
sure.
VII.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. How can I forget? Yes. Um, and that way I will be losing a day. Can we have a class in the evening Monday?
Yes, sir, anytime.
Yes, sir.
See,
The
I want
evening
you guys
classes
to
are
be
far better.
far better. Yeah, even I thought so because even it is very much good and convenient for me. Um, wherein you can be at liberty and you are quite fresh in the evening as compared to the morning because before me, I'm sure that there are so many lectures that you are attending, so you cannot pay full attention to my classes. But anyway, what I'm doing every day is recording my you see classes and which can be made available to you provided authorities in the college should allow us to me to do so that you can have a look as and when you want, right? So even your friends, those who are not attending, the great personalities, those who are not attending the classes, they can also take some of the benefit if they want. Okay, and I'll try to upload the link of all the recorded lectures if possible. Some of the lectures I was not fortunate enough to record, and yeah, I'll definitely look for that particular option. But let me just tell you again that I cannot guarantee you. It all depends on the permission as well as only those lectures which have been successfully recorded. I can give you only that. Okay, and then let's have a lecture on Monday, guys. Right, 7 p.m. Okay, not in the morning.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so thank you so much. Have a very good evening. In fact, have a very good Saturday evening. Just don't go partying around outside. If you want to party, just party at home. Okay, and remember me as well. Thank you so much, and have a very, very, very nice good evening and good night.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye to all.
I got my peaches out in Georgia. Yeah, shit. I get my weed from California. Cause that shit. I took my trip up to the north, yeah. Badass bitch. I get my life right from the source, yeah. Yeah, that's it. I get to feeling so I'm sure. Stand in my head because I'm yours. I can't pretend I can't ignore you, right? Don't think you wanna know just where I've been. Oh. Don't be distracted. All I need is right in my arms. You think the sweetest tomorrow. You love me right here with you. I got my peaches out in Georgia. Yeah, shit. I get my weed from California. That's that shit. I took my chick up to the north, yeah, badass bitch. I get my life right from the source, yeah, yeah, that's it. I got my peaches out in Georgia. That shit. I get my weed from California. That's that shit. I told my chick up to the north, yeah, badass bitch. I get my life back on the road, yeah. I got my peaches out in Georgia. That shit. I get my weed from California. That's that shit. I told my chick up to the north, yeah, badass bitch. I get my life back on the road, yeah, that's it. I got my peaches out in Georgia. That shit. I get my weed from California. That's that shit. I told my chick up to the north, yeah, badass bitch. I get my life back on the road, yeah, that's it.
Alexa, please stop. Please stop here. Oh my God. La 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 la.